It all comes down to this, and the stakes could not be higher. As the NBA season comes to an end, the play-in tournament is upon us, and NBA playoffs are fast approaching. So, there is no shortage of action and big games to get in on and win some cash. Shout out to our partners at DraftKings. They are bringing you a brand new way to play daily fantasy sports. It's called the Pick Six. All new customers get up to $200 in Pick Six credits if your first pick set loses. Pick 2 to 6 players and choose if they're going to have more or less of a stat. That's pretty fun. You can track your lineup, compete against others for a shot at huge cash prizes. Getting started? Well, that's simple. Download the DraftKings Pick Six app, sign up using our code, BULLYBALL. That's right. You can use the code BULLYBALL. All new customers get $200 in Pick Six credits if your first pick set results in a loss. So just don't stress. You'll get $200 in Pick Six credits. That's code BULLYBALL only on DraftKings Pick Six. The crown is yours. Basketball fans, it's that bittersweet time of year. The NBA season is coming to a close and the playoff picture is starting to come into focus. Oh yes, if you are looking to hit a regular season game, well, you are at the buzzer. But I have good news for you. You can still score last-minute tickets and get last-minute deals with the Game Time app. Oh yes, this is where Game Time comes in clutch. I've seen these last-minute deals on games. They're up to 60% off. Game Time has the lowest price guaranteed. If you find tickets in the same row and section for less, well, Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference. Part of the Game Time guarantee is event cancellation protection too, 24-hour returns, and job assurance. That's incredible. I mean, life happens, plans change, people bail. I've been there, but Game Time always has me covered. So when I'm buying tickets, I eliminate the guesswork and the frustration with Game Time. You can download the Game Time app. You can use my code, BULLYBALL. That's BULLYBALL, $20 off your first purchase. Now terms apply. But create an account, redeem code BULLYBALL. Download the Game Time app. You can do it today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Welcome to Bully Ball, presented by DraftKings. I am Rachel Nichols. As always, Mr. DeMarcus Cousins. His plant has been replaced by some artwork. We're going to have to discuss that in a minute. But first, we are also joined by Amin Elhassan. And Amin, something happened over the weekend. We can't give the people the full story because we got to wait till it airs. But Boogie Cousins and Paul Pierce faced off against each other during the Final Four. And just give us a little taste. You don't have to tell us the whole story, Boog, but give us a little taste of whether you or Paul came out victorious.
Man, it was a fish fry. Fish fry. Yeah.
So I think we know.
Yeah, man. Poor Paul. Poor Paul.
I just want you to know that we will be breaking down tape like after this comes out.
Hey, one thing I love about Paul, he talks his shit. He may not always be able to back it up, but he's going to take it like a champ, regardless of the results. He was a good sport about it. But he was just saying he could be the number one pick in this year's draft.
That's what I was saying. Wasn't he just saying he could be the number one pick in the draft? And didn't he also say earlier this year that he could beat someone in a 40?
Yeah, I think Paul in that moment, once the game started, all his thoughts and comments came to him at that moment. And it was like a punch of reality. He kind of had this look of shock on his face for the remainder of the day. Damn, what did I get myself into? But he was a great sport about it.
Well, I can't wait to see it. Very excited. Everyone watch it when it comes out. It's going to be good. And yes, we will be going frame by frame, breaking down tape. Just saying. All right, guys. Much more seriously, we got to get to your opinion, Boogie, on Coach Calipari. Coach Calipari finalizing a 5-year deal to become the next head coach at Arkansas, salary being reported in the $8 million range per year. Now, in 15 seasons with UK, Calipari was 410 and 123, 7 Elite Eights, 4 Final Fours, 2012 National Championship. But of course, as we know, and we've talked about on the show, lots of dissatisfaction around Lexington, he had not reached the second round of the NCAA tourney since 2019. So, Boogie, I want to know when this crossed your phone. I don't know if it was last night. I don't know if it was this morning. What was your reaction? Your first 30-second reaction?
I was shocked. I was shocked, and I have a soft spot in my heart for Lexington, Kentucky. That was a place I consider home at a certain part of my career. I've got great memories, great times, great relationships still to this day in that place, and it's gonna remain that way. You know what I mean? The same goes with Cal. Like, I understand his business. I understand the ups and downs of it. I see both sides. I understand both sides. But I think this is good for both sides in a way. I think this is a fresh start for Cal, and it's also a fresh start for the University of Kentucky. It's been a lot of chatter and back and forth about what's the standard, what's expected on a year-to-year basis. Well, I think everybody's going to get a real taste of reality moving forward, like from this moment.
Amen.
I think with Cal, he's now in a place where it's not this pressure to bring in a championship every single season, since that's the standard at UK. This is now a place, I think Arkansas, we all know, we've seen this movie before with Cal, like where he goes becomes the hot spot. That's the reality of this.
Yeah.
Arkansas, everything about Arkansas is, I put Cal and Deion Sanders in the same category. Deion has the prime effect, and we've seen what it's done for not just the program, but the entire city of Colorado, entire state of Colorado in the city that they're in.
And Boulder. Yeah.
In Boulder. We've seen what it's done. It's the same thing with Calipari. Like, Arkansas will now be the hot spot. Arkansas will now have the number one recruiting classes coming in every single year. Arkansas will be full of celebrities. Arkansas will have the most talent coming in and out every single year. The machine will continue to go. It's just being a new place. I think when it comes to, UK, we're going to have to go through our rebuilding process. I don't think there's a well, I actually do, and I'll get to that point in a second.
Okay.
But outside of that one specific thing, I think there isn't a right answer as to who will fill that spot. And yeah, it's plenty of, popular names out there right now. You got, Dan Hurley and UConn. UConn not letting him go. Let's
No. Well, that was my question. Okay, so if you were the athletic director, who would you get to replace John Calipari, who's gettable?
Dan Hurley's not going. Jay Wright is living his best life.
Yes, he is.
Half the work, even more money. He's not leaving. I saw something about Oates, the coach Oates from
Alabama.
Yeah. I also saw something about Brad Stevens. You're out your mind if you think he's leaving his position.
Nope.
He's living his best life.
Yep.
And then I saw something about Billy Donovan. Billy Donovan has been a part of college basketball. He's now at the ultimate level when it comes to the NBA. It's going to be hard to convince any coach that has been to the ultimate level to then take a step down to go to the collegiate level. And it's not the collegiate level of old. This is a brand new monster. So now, and most of these coaches that used to coach in that old way, it was their way or the highway. That's not what college basketball is anymore. So to think that it's going to be a line around the door of coaches that want to, not only coach at this level, and it's 10 times the amount of work, you now have to convince them that, you have to meet this standard of being a championship team every single year. Good luck finding a replacement for Cal, because it's going to be very, very hard.
Yeah.
And UK will, and what we experienced in those 15 years of Cal being there, we will never experience again. Now, I'm not saying we won't have championships down the line, because UK is UK. You know what I mean? I think the AD will, go about it the right way, find the right person to fit the culture, meet the standards, and it's going to be a process. As long as they understand it's going to be a process, And I think it's going to be one of those processes to where you end up finding talent, you build on them for 3 or 4 years, and it's going to be a team full of juniors and seniors like we continue to see in this tournament, because that's what wins tournament games. Experience and consistency. That's what wins in college. So, and yeah, it's rare occasions where you get a young group that can do it, but that's a rare thing. That's like hitting the lottery. But at the same time, we see time and time again, the consistency and the experience is what wins college tournaments. So I do think, Kentucky down the line will finally get one of those teams, and, we'll be back at the top, or in that moment be at the top. But to be the hot spot or be what we've been as of lately or these last 15, it'll never be the same. Even when it comes to TV games, the revenue, everything that comes with Kentucky won't be on TV anymore. It's going to be hard to get a kid to go to Kentucky if they're not on TV. What kids are looking for in today's time is what's hot, what's cool, what's relevant. I want to be on TV every single night to show my talent. Guess what team's going to be on TV every night? The Arkansas Razorbacks.
Rachel, I think the thing to keep in mind is, and Boogie, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but sometimes people at places like Kentucky or UCLA is a great example of how it could be, because UCLA is kind of going through it in terms of they think, oh, it's here. It doesn't matter who's coaching. They're always going to come. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, in the last 15 years, these kids wanted to go play for Cal. And it's not just because Cal's a nice guy or a fun guy to be around. It's because Cal went into every one of those living rooms and told those kids, my number one priority is to see you be as high a draft pick as possible. My number 2 priority is championships. And he knew that if I get the talent, we're going to win games, we're going to go to Final Fours, and we might win some championships. They ended up winning 1. But the reality is, every year, the start of the year, we knew that Kentucky was going to be one of the top teams in the league. And that was because of Cal. And like Boogie said, we could look at the track record. He went to UMass. What'd they do there? Final Four. He went to Memphis. What'd they do there? Championship game. And again, those aren't hot spots. Those weren't blue bloods. Those were smaller schools. He comes to Kentucky. He has the success there. He's going to go to Arkansas. Arkansas ain't Memphis, and it ain't UMass. That's a school with deep pockets, with boosters that want to see winning. Walmart. Jerry Jones, Tyson Chicken Family, all them people, Walmart. They got money, and they want to see wins, and they'll give Cal whatever he needs. Yes. He's going to be happy.
Chicken money.
They'll make the money back.
Money.
And they'll make the money back. They'll make the money back. Meanwhile, Kentucky, we seen what happened when they have a coach and then they're trying to transition off afterward. So what happened after Pitino, after Tubby, and the down years can happen. And like I said, if you don't believe me, look at UCLA, the greatest basketball dynasty ever. Look at what happened to them in the down years. Look at what's going to happen in some of these other schools. Georgetown in the down years, UConn in the down years. It happens to all of us. This game is built around the people who play it and the people who coach it. And the name of the team has an impact, but it ain't going to erase what the first 2 things do.
Yes.
Yeah. It's less than it ever has been before. And look, the game has changed so much. Boog, you're right. I mean, the way men's college basketball is with guys in and out, especially the one and done culture at Kentucky. I would not be surprised if we saw Cal shift his approach a little bit at Arkansas. I think that it might be definitely some of his, freshmen coming in, huge recruits. I don't think that's changing. That's who Calipari is. That's why they're on TV so much. I think you might see a little bit more mixing in of guys who are there for maybe 2 or 3 years to kind of keep that unity and that chemistry together when they go into the tournament. But you've got a fan base that hasn't had a title in 30 years. That is a very different fan base than the fan base that's like, why haven't you won yet? What have you done for me lately? How come it's only been since 2012? You are having a different environment when you wake up in the morning in your day-to-day. And frankly, I think Cal was ready for that, because when I saw him sit up during that press conference after he and the athletic director, they came out, they had the tweet, right? We've decided to bring Cal back for another year. That was so uncomfortable. Man. I have never seen 2 people who looked like they did not want to be in the same room more. And all I could think about was, okay, they've got a $33 million payout if they get rid of him. So basically, it's like staying married to someone because you guys can't afford to split up, right? You can't afford the house. You can't afford a new apartment, so you're going to just have to live in the house together, and there you go. Nobody wants to be like that. And Cal is too accomplished a guy to live like that. There's a little bit to me in this of like, I'm going to break up with you before you break up with me. I'm going to be just fine. And you mentioned the chicken money, man, chicken money, Walmart money, Jerry Jones money. Those guys, they're going to be able to
automatically
pay NIL money as much as they want. They're going to be paid for a deep staff. Boog, I know we were talking about the assistant coaches and how maybe he could beef up the assistant coaches on his staff to kind of get some of the guys who relate to players who are a little younger. While he is a leader still of the ship, obviously. I'm very curious to see what happens here. I will say Fayetteville is not Lexington. Lexington is beautiful. Fayetteville has all kinds of strengths to it, but they are different cities. I do think, why are you laughing at me? I'm trying to be nice.
I do think there is a right answer to UK, like moving forward and making this process, like moving forward with a good energy. I think the perfect hire for UK at this point would be Rajon Rondo.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
We
sat here last week, Boog.
We did.
And he said, I want to go into coaching. We sat with Rajon last week. He said, I definitely want to go into coaching. He said, the only reason I'm not doing it now is that I need to get my daughter off to her final year of high school volleyball. And then once she's set and she's in college, I can go. Guess what? He can play and coach in the same. He can coach in the same place his daughter plays. He doesn't have to wait that year.
Exactly.
Right? She's right there. He's right there. It's all good. And by the way, Amin, he also said that he'd like Boog on his staff. So I might be looking for a new co-host if that happens. We'll talk a little bit more later.
I'm gonna say, Boogie, you don't want to be babysitting these kids, man. You're gonna go crazy. You're gonna go crazy. Well, you like the way as hard as you played, as passionate as you were, having to deal with like these. Today I don't want to do this. Today I want to be a TikTok star. Right. Oh man, God bless you.
I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, man. Get in the goddamn gym, man. Fuck that TikTok, man. But I honestly think Rajon would be the perfect guy for this situation, and the reason saying that is obviously he's a Kentucky kid. He played at Kentucky. He's an alumni. He understands.
He lives there right now.
He lives there.
He's already in town. Doesn't even have to move. Don't even have to pay moving expenses.
Yes, but he understands both sides, like probably better than anybody else ever will. And I think when this is going to be a healing process for Kentucky. Like it's going to be a lot of things moving forward. And I think putting Rajon in that position, he's going to be a great energy moving forward. He's great at creating a standard. He's great at leading the ship. I don't think there's a better leader to lead Kentucky out of this spot than a Rajon Rondo. He has the intelligence. We don't even have to speak on the intelligence and the knowledge of basketball. Like that's a gift.
So you want to know what my prediction is? My prediction is they're not going to do that. They're going to hire the wrong person. They're going to learn the hard way that this ain't as easy as we thought it was.
Right.
And then maybe they'll come around.
But that's good because Doe doesn't want to be the rebound anyway, right? So I don't know. We got to see. Maybe he doesn't want to be the rebound. Maybe he wants to wait.
I'm not thinking about it in that type of a way. I just think this is great for everybody moving forward. Not in a rebound type of way, but just putting things in a positive way moving forward. Like, because at the end of the day, I bleed blue. Like I'm Kentucky to the death of it. So I always want success for this, university and school. So that's more so my thinking. And, how can we right this ship now that we've moved on from this part? And I think Doe is the perfect person to do it.
All right, we're going to call him after we're done taping this. And we'll pump him up a little bit. We'll gas him. We'll see what happens. So, all right, let's move on to the NBA friends because Paul George led the Clippers to a huge comeback last night against the Cavs. He had 39, 11, and 7, the clutch game winner. LA is looking a little more healthy. They've now won 3 straight. They're likely kind of locked into that 4 spot. They would match up with the Mavs at 5. We're going to talk in a minute about how dangerous Dallas is, but just focusing on the LA side right now. Would you still think of the Clippers as a contender the way we were sort of maybe in the mid-late of the season? Or are you sort of like, I've seen enough to know that they probably won't be there toward the end?
I still think, this is a team that can definitely compete in the West. And obviously with every team, there's ups and downs. I feel like every team in the West this year has had their ups and downs, probably outside of the top 3 who've, dominated most of the year. But when it comes to, the possible first round matchup, if we go into the playoffs as of right now and it's this matchup with the Mavs, I mean, we know the fireworks that's coming with these 2 squads. There's so much history between them. The love-hate relationship between, Kawhi, PG, Luka, and now you add Kyrie to that mix. It's going to be an electric, playoff series. So,
it's going to be amazing.
Playoffs are always about matchups. So I think these two teams meeting up first round. I mean, this shit could really go either way. So, but outside of that, I do still think the Clippers are, contenders. But the inconsistencies that they've had, throughout the season, we can't have that in the playoffs, or they will be a first round exit.
Yeah, I think so. First of all, yes, they are absolutely contender. This team, the biggest thing is healthy. Are they healthy? Yes. If they're healthy, then absolutely yes, they are contenders. There's no question about that. I think the inconsistency in play, Boogie, that you talk about, that happens a lot with veteran teams that know, man, just get me to the stuff that matters, right? Because they've been there, they've done that. They've been on teams that won 60 games and done all those things. They understand, all right, especially now, this time of year, just get me there. They've been pretty locked into 4 for a while, so I can see a lack of motivation of going 100% now, trying to save for the playoffs. The other thing is, man, you cannot discount the impact of having Ty Lue as your head coach. This guy is a master X's and O's, master adjustment guy. And so he's got a team where, other than his 3 bigs of Zubac, Tice, and Plumlee, everybody else is switchable. Right. 1 through 4, they're switchable the whole time. So he's going to have all types of combinations that he can run out there. I think if you're saying that the Clippers aren't a threat, whoever says that, they're out of their mind. The one thing is, looking like they played Dallas in the first round. And you have to acknowledge Dallas, since the trade deadline, has been a different team. They've been a much better defensive team, and Kyrie and Luka have been playing out of their mind together, making each other better, making their teammates better. Tim Hardaway Jr., a bona fide 6th Man of the Year candidate, and Jason Kidd really has this team on the same page. And like Boogie said, it ain't a random matchup. These two teams have seen each other in the playoffs before. There is a history there, so it's going to be fireworks. It's kind of ironic that I can call them both championship contenders and also say one of them is going to be going home.
One of them could go home in the first round. Look, Kyrie's dropped 48 points, right?
Mm-hmm. Yesterday. While fasting.
Luka, while fasting for Ramadan. Not a small thing. Seriously, not a small thing. Luka dropped 37 points. They've won 9 of 10. It is impossible not to take them seriously. In fact, I think they're the sleeper in the West. The team, obviously, Nuggets aside, et cetera, but they're the team that you don't want to see from that half of the bracket. And I don't know, man. I think that the Clippers still have some trouble with teams with length. It is matchup dependent. And if they end up facing a big team, and Dallas has some height, I mean, we got to see where Derek Lively's health is, but I don't know. As star-studded as the Clippers team is, and I'm with you on Ty Lue, I think he's the best X and O coach in the game right now. The Mavericks, man, they just look like they have everything right now to be a very, very dangerous team. Who do you think the Mavericks should be scared of? I mean, is there anyone? I don't know. They face Denver, I always think that Luka and Jokic just raise each other's games, and those games are a battle. I don't know if the Mavericks should be scared of anyone right now.
I don't think the Mavs are scared of anybody. You have 2 matchup problems every single night in Kyrie and Luka, and we all know the playoffs are based on matchups, or mismatches. Going into a game with these 2 guys who are walking 30 balls on a nightly basis, I don't think they are operating off of fear, at all. So this is a scary team for any team that meets up with them. And I mean, when you think about it, when it comes to these top teams in the West, and you think about their point guards, their 2 guards, their 3 guards, the guys that'll be matching up against, Kyrie and Luka, it's just I can't see these guys having an assignment like that for an entire playoff series and seeing them be successful in that matchup. So this is tough for any team. I think the Mavs are, like I said, a matchup probably for anybody in the West. And when they're on their A game, they're a dangerous team, very dangerous team.
I mean, I want to ask you a little bit more about Kyrie, because first of all, we talked to you on the pod a few weeks ago just about how difficult it is to play during Ramadan, the limitations, just not even being able to have water. I mean, I don't think people understand even when they read it, just really what it means and what you're going through. But I also want to take it out even wider. I just sat down with Kyrie for our show Headliners at the beginning of the season, and I said, what's the biggest thing you've learned through all of this, right? All of the tumult he had gone through in Brooklyn and back and forth and all the other stuff. And he said, I've learned not to touch the stove when it's hot. And I thought that was a great way to say it, right? And I think Jason Kidd has been really instrumental. Jason said to him, he's like, I don't want you to tamp down who you are. He goes, I'm looking for the creative Kyrie. I'm looking for Kyrie the artist. I'm looking for the guy who thinks outside the box. I just want you to know when it's smart to weigh in and not weigh in, when it's smart to put basketball first so everyone can see who you are. And I just want to give Kyrie credit for that, because I don't think we can be as critical as people were of him in Brooklyn for not knowing how to do that and not recognize that he's had personal growth and been able to do that. And that doesn't mean that he's had to shut up or change who he is. Kyrie is still Kyrie Irving. I mean, you talk to him for 5 minutes, he is still Kyrie, but he has been able to really kind of put the part of him that is also Kyrie Irving, which is this basketball genius, to the fore during the NBA season. And I just think it's been great to watch. He and Luka clearly like each other. Kyrie said at one point, he's like, I wish I had been drafted by the Mavs. I just think that they would have sort of helped me mature quicker and taken care of me. I think Jason Kidd hasn't really gotten enough credit, frankly, because Jason's such a laid back guy. Everyone's just like, oh, Jason. But I mean, obviously he has known what buttons to push with this team. So I don't know, when you look at Kyrie, and you've been critical of him in the past, but when you look at his growth and sort of what he's done this year, what do you think?
Well, I think a couple of things. First of all, Jason Kidd laid back. He looks laid back. That man ain't laid back. Wow. Let me say that right now. But you first of all have to give a lot of credit to Mark Cuban, Nico Harrison.
I'm not talking about the Waffle House at 3 a.m. I'm talking about,
I'm talking about in a basketball court sense. He's not laid back there either. He looks it, but he's very intense, right?
Yes,
but
no, he is.
You got to give a lot of credit to Mark Cuban, Nico Harrison, and Michael Finley, because where Kyrie has been the last 3 stops, Cleveland, Boston, Brooklyn, he hasn't felt the love and welcome from the organization. It's kind of almost like, well, he's really good, so let's let him do what he wants to do, but no, don't do that. There's a difference in doing that and being nurturing, and I think the Mavericks have obviously provided a nurturing environment. Jason Kidd and his staff are part of that as well. Also, there is exactly what you said, Rachel. It's one of the things that blows my mind about people when they watch either players or coaches or whoever. They think, if I saw you do or be a certain person in year 2 or year 3 or even year 5, that's who you are forever. You ain't never going to change. And that's just ridiculous. Everybody grows. Everybody learns. No one is the same person they were 5 years before. And I think Kyrie, he said, I learned not to touch the stove when it's hot. How do you learn that? By touching the stove. He touched the stove when he was in Brooklyn. And so some of that was unfair. Some of that was justified. But he grew from that experience. He learned what is the most refined version of myself. Not changing myself, but refining myself to be sharper. And he's done that. And he's put basketball first. And ultimately, that part was always undeniable with him. So I think it's a little bit of everything. But I want to go back to the fasting part, because it's not just you're not eating and not drinking during the day. It's everyone, when they hear that, they just think about it in terms of one day. I woke up today, I didn't have anything to eat or drink, and then at sundown I ate and drank, and then I went and played an NBA game, right? What people don't realize is he played that game on day 27 of Ramadan. So that's 27 straight days of doing this. There's a cumulative effect that happens to your body when you're going through this day after day after day. It's not just a blip in the calendar. Oop, didn't eat and drink today. It's I've been doing this day after day. And for him to continue to not only have the focus and the tenacity, but it feels like he's getting better as the month goes on. There's only one other athlete in the NBA I've seen do that, and that's Hakeem Olajuwon, where he was getting better as the month went on. He won Player of the Month when it was in Ramadan back in 1995, I believe.
It's mind-boggling.
And Kyrie is on that same kind of track in terms of he's almost making him better in some ways in terms of his focus.
Well, and you're on day 27 of doing it, and you're podcasting with us. So, thank you. I think that's basically the same thing as playing an NBA game, right?
It's the sacrifices. They're all there.
Same physical effort.
I got to keep talking. As soon as I'm done with this, I got another thing to record.
There you go. Boom. I want to go to the rest of the West, though, down there, because if you do have that LA Clippers, Mavs sort of 4-5 spot, which is fascinating, once you get to 6 through 10, oh my Lord, right? I mean, you've got half a game here, half a game there. Everybody is all bunched up. That could end up anywhere. But of course, the key is that first spot, the 6th spot. The 6th spot keeps you out of the play-in. any of the rest of the way down that those teams jumble through, that's just going to be a bit of a free-for-all and depends on who you face on a given night. It's March Madness and everyone can win one game, that sort of thing. So you want to get to that number 6. So right now, as we sit here recording this, and I feel like it could change in the next 5 minutes, even though they're not playing any games right now, Phoenix sits at number 6. You've got NOLA there. You've got Sacramento. You've got the Lakers. You've got Golden State. Houston is now out of it. So that is your group. Who do you think, Boogie, who's going to end up at that number 6 spot? Phoenix, remember, has the toughest schedule in the entire NBA going forward, although they have managed it already over the last week or two very well, and I got to give them credit for that. But they do still have more tough games to go. You got NOLA, Sac, Lakers, Golden State. Who's getting that number 6 spot when it's all said and done?
There's 2 teams that stick out for me, and that's the Phoenix Suns, who's currently in that position, and it's the LA Lakers. I think the Suns obviously have the talent to do so. They have 3 of the probably the most gifted offensive guys in our league right now on one team. They've had an up and down year. They haven't had the consistent year that they've, probably planned for or wanted. But, they've had a pretty decent year for the most part. They're for sure a threat in the West. Like, just with the talent constructed, like, they're for sure a threat. So you can't ignore that. And then obviously with the Lakers, with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, everybody knows this is one of the most dangerous teams, specifically at this time of the year. Like, for some reason, this is when they decide to hit their switch. I haven't figured that. I don't think anybody's figured that part out yet, why they wait until, this late in the season to start, really being the team they can be. But, it works for them. But I can for sure see them, winning out the rest of the season and easily slide into that 6th spot. They have the talent to do so. Like I said, when those guys do decide to hit the switch, and LeBron and Anthony Davis, they're a totally different team. And they are for sure going to be a threat also in the West, which is crazy to say. So for me, those 2 teams stand out. New Orleans, I think they've had a great year. But, with B.I. being out, like that's a huge hit to this team. So I can easily see them, not finishing out as strong as they would like to. And B.I. being a big reason, of that. And when it comes to the Sacramento.
All right, well, you got to pick, though. I'm going to make you pick. So if you think it's Lakers or Suns, who's getting the 6? Lakers or Suns?
I can't go Lakers or Suns.
Lakers or Suns.
I'm going to say the Lakers are going to finish out 6 just because Phoenix has such a tough schedule finishing out. So I'm going to roll with the Lakers, and I think it's a great chance they win out the remainder of their games. So I'm going to say the Lakers are going to be at 6.
Okay. All right.
Man, there's no good answers for this.
Everybody's
got challenges. So watch this. I try to make it as simple as possible, but it ain't simple. So the Suns, first of all, we got to look at that remaining schedule. That schedule is crazy. The Clippers twice this week. They've got Sacramento, who's playing for something. They also have, Minnesota, who's also playing for the number 1 seed, right? So not only are they playing 4 tough games, it's 4 tough games against teams that have incentive to play hard, right? Then you got to look at the other part of this, which is they lose the tiebreaker to the Lakers because the Lakers won 3 out of the 4 games. And the Kings, they're tied in terms of 2 games apiece for the head-to-head. But you know what the second tiebreaker is your division record. The Kings are 10-6 in division right now. The Suns are 7-9. So they lose that tiebreaker. So you got the 2 tiebreakers against you, and you got one of the toughest schedules ahead of you. They've got the talent to get it done. Let's make that clear. And if they win out, then this isn't a conversation. But the problem is that tough schedule against teams that are motivated. I'm with Boogie. I think the Lakers are probably going to end up 6 because they have a slightly easier path. They've got some hard ones too. They got to play Golden State, who are also still chasing them to get to at least 9. So
I don't think it's slightly easier. I think it's significantly easier. That yes, they play Golden State, but they play Golden State at home. Then they go, look at that. Hey, people. They play Golden State at home. Then they go play Memphis, not a game that is locked and loaded because they don't have their main guys. And then they go to New Orleans and play in New Orleans. And I do think that is going to be tough. But I don't know. I look at Phoenix and I am not down on Phoenix. I think Phoenix is just an exceptionally loaded team, right? When you look at their top heaviness and their front guys, but they have shown that they cannot play in the fourth quarter and be organized the way that we expected them to be. The numbers aren't good. And it just happened again. It just happened against the Pelicans on Sunday, right? They had the chance to win that game.
That was a Super Bowl for the Pelicans because the Pelicans knew, even though they lost the season series, they know if we're going to have any chance of getting this 6, we have to win this game for sure.
Shouldn't the Suns feel the same way? I mean, come on. Nobody at this point in the season, in this 6-10 clot, should feel like, oh, it's fine. We got this. We're good. The Suns need to have some fourth quarter wins. They need to have some wins where that fourth quarter, it was right there. It came down to the wire and they came out victorious. And they have not been able to consistently do it. And it just happened again. So again, I'm all in on the Suns as a concept. I think it is okay to have a team that's a little bit top heavy in the way that they did. I think they did a good job sort of putting some of those pieces around in a better way than right after the Kevin Durant trade, where obviously the cupboard was so bare. But I have been very surprised with an excellent coach in Frank Vogel, guys like Kevin Durant, guys like Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, that their fourth quarter numbers just, they've been pretty shocking. And again, we just saw it happen again. So I don't know. That is the thing that gives me pause about Phoenix. I do think the Lakers right now are number one with a bullet in terms of moving up that section. And we'll have to see what happens. I mean, as we sit here on Monday morning taping this pod, that Tuesday game against the Warriors looks huge. And it looks exciting too, right? Doesn't it? Shouldn't it be fun?
Super Bowl. These are all Super Bowls.
Mm-hmm. There you go. All right, let's go to the East, guys, because the Bucks, they fell at home to the Knicks on Sunday. Doc Rivers' record with the Bucks is not what anybody expected. Let's just say that. Since he came, they're 15-16. Remember, of course, under Adrian Griffin, they were 30-13, and he got fired. Milwaukee is only ahead of Orlando by 1 game for the number 2 spot in the East. They could drop down to 3rd. So I think it's been very interesting to hear the rhetoric coming out of the Bucks the last few days. You heard first Pat Connaughton say, we're just not having fun anymore. There's not really that joy. Then you heard Doc Rivers after a game say, hey, one of the officials came up to me and said, your team's so heavy, man. Your team feels so heavy. And then you had Giannis Antetokounmpo after the game last night talk about, again, that same lack of joy. He said, I'm not sitting out here like pounding my chest. And Pat Connaughton said, Giannis isn't making dad jokes. So I do think that sometimes the fix can just be like, can this team have like a team bonding? Can they go get drunk and go bowling? I mean, can they do something like that? I mean, Boogie, have you been on teams where just everything is so tight and everyone just needs to let loose and enjoy each other a little more?
Well, I mean, that comes with, the personalities in the room when you really think about it. Like, these.
But you've been in that room. You've been in that locker room. Giannis, when he's loose, he's happy.
Giannis is loose and happy in his own way. Giannis is a guy that's more to himself as well, though. But when it comes to that team just having that personality that can bring everybody together, I think the closest thing they do have is a Pat Beverly. But that voice is only going to carry so much. But it does go to the mixture of guys in the locker room. Like when it comes to most championship teams, it's always that joyous like type energy on that team. And like I said, outside of Pat Bev, it's not a lot there. I think when it comes to Damian Lillard and being that leader and the guy that can bring guys together, he's always shown that. But I think he's going through his own struggles this year with just the adjustments in his own life. So we might not be getting the best version of Dame when it comes to being, a leader for the Bucks. Is he capable of it? Absolutely. But I don't know. It's hard to, hold weight from other situations and, still be the perfect person in your active duty in your job as well. So I do think Dame is kind of struggling with that. But man, it's been a lot with this team this year. They've had a lot of adversity. So and it's hard to sit here and not commend them. They're still the number 2 team in the East, like through all of these struggles. So there has to be some type of, credit given to them on that end. But man, it does seem to be like a heavy cloud over this team just from afar that, I'm not really sure outside of, just bringing some type of a good energy to that team and allowing guys to just have fun with, with the game. I think it is a lot of pressure. And like I said, it's pressure from the organization, it's pressure from the fans. Guys are dealing with their own personal issues in their personal lives. So it's a lot going on with that team for sure.
Yeah, Rachel, you look at it and we talk about them being a game ahead of Orlando. That one, at least they've got 2 more games against Orlando. They control their destiny there. Yeah. They're a game ahead of the Knicks, and the Knicks have a season series on them. So that tiebreaker's taken care of. If you tie with the Knicks, they leapfrog you. So this team, we're talking about dropping to 3. You might drop to 4. And now you're talking about something different. But in terms of how do you fix this, I'm going to say this. There's one silver lining to dropping out of 2. And that is, we talked about it last time. If you're 3, 4, 5, or 6, you know who you're playing. Meaning the regular season ends April 14th for teams 3, 4, 5, and 6. They know exactly who they're going to play a week later on that Saturday or Sunday. So we get to spend that entire week game planning and just figuring out how to stop you. I don't have to watch the play-in and pay attention to how someone's playing or whatever. So that is an advantage in and of itself. And because you have that week dedicated, if I'm Doc Rivers and I'm the staff, Monday morning, kiss your families goodbye. We're going on another training camp somewhere, not in Milwaukee, not in Wisconsin. We're going to go
somewhere with bowling and beer.
Bowling and beer, which is also in Wisconsin, I guess up in Madison or whatever. But the idea is we have to sequester ourselves from the outside distractions of people who are not in this locker room. The season was what the season was. The new season begins on Saturday or Sunday. We got to get together and prep that. And that's the only thing you can do. You can hit a reset button in that week if you're the Milwaukee Bucks. And you got to count on, I've got great players, I've got championship caliber players, and I've got people who have been through some deep playoff runs and wars. We know how to flip that switch if it's going to get flipped. But if we stay in this mindset of woe is us and we lost to the Wizards and we lost to the Raptors, that's just going to carry on that stench with them into the playoffs.
That is a great idea, by the way, because that is also the fix. I mean, obviously, I'm joking about the bowling and beer, but the truth is, if you're away for 4 or 5 days as a team, everyone's on the same page, right? Mm-hmm. You get to have the team dinners. You get to hang out in the lobby or hang out in a guy's room just playing, Madden or whatever it is. That you're just spending that time with each other that you're not spending if everyone is going home to their own house. And you mentioned Damian Lillard, book, he's been very public about it. It has been a very difficult personal adjustment for him to be in Milwaukee, away from his kids. I really think that's, it's funny. There's certain guys in the NBA, you come see them, you haven't seen them in a while, and they come across the court and you say hi and you're like, how are you? And the first words out of their mouth are about their kids. There's about 5 or 6 guys I can always count on it. The first 5 or 6 words out of their mouth would be like, oh, my son did this or that kind of thing. Dame is one of those guys. He just is. And I think that he really feeds off of the joy of being able to put the game behind him at the end of the night, be with his family, be with his children, and then come back the next day energized. And he just hasn't had that. And he's been in a place that's frankly cold in the winter, and it can be a little gray, and it can be, I went to school in the Midwest. It can be a lot just sort of weather-wise. And I think that if he's back on equal footing with the rest of the team in like a getaway for 3 days situation where none of them are with their kids or families, then all of a sudden you're kind of balancing that out a little bit better. I love that idea. I love that they would have more preparation, as you point out. And frankly, I would love that maybe for them that they would get out of range of the Philadelphia 76ers, because with Embiid back right now, if they stay in that number 2 spot with the way Philly is playing, they could finish 6th and maybe they end up playing him anyway, but they could play him 7th.
Rachel, the way they're playing right now, you can't be worried about who our opponent might be. They are not right. If they were right, then you can be like, let's avoid them. Let's try to get them. But they got to get themselves right. They got to love themselves before they can love other people, Rachel.
That's right. Well, look, let's talk about Philly for a minute, whether they play Milwaukee or not. They've won 5 straight. They're 3-0 with Joel back on the floor. They pulled one out even without him against the Spurs the other night. I mean, they definitely look like a team that feels comfortable with themselves again. And you get that, right? The whole team ran around Joel Embiid. So you're just waiting for him to get back. And once he finally does, everyone can relax. The defensive attention is completely different. I mean, do you think that with the right matchup in the first round, they can get back to the conference finals? What do you think, Amin?
Absolutely. I watched them play against Miami the other night. That was Embiid's second game. He played his first game back was against Oklahoma City. He kind of looked ginger there. And then against Miami, he starts the game unstoppable, but then he loses his legs and he gets tired as the game wears on, and Maxey has an amazing game. They go to Memphis. Embiid looks even better, and you see the momentum start picking up. He said it himself over the weekend. He said, I'm still sloppy, but that sloppiness is getting sharper. And this is the exact right amount of time he needs to get his game and his conditioning to where it needs to be. I think ultimately you're still talking about Maxey needs to be Maxey in Miami as opposed to Maxey in Memphis, where he had like 7 points or something like that. He needs to be assertive and aggressive, because it's not fair to expect Joel to just be Joel out the gate right here. And so I'm of the opinion, absolutely, if I'm the Sixers, if my guy's healthy, he's not moving gingerly, his conditioning is better, we absolutely have a puncher's chance against anybody in the Eastern Conference. Now, does that mean they're going to win? They're going to get to the conference finals? No, because as we pointed out, there are a lot of good teams in their way.
Yeah, I shouldn't say back to the conference finals because they didn't get there recently. So I would say to the conference finals is how I should phrase it.
Not since AI.
Yes, which of course was the goal, right? I mean, that's frankly why they got rid of Doc. They said second round isn't good enough. So I think this year it's different. Nick Nurse, by the way, has done a fantastic job. And if they don't make it past the first or second round, everyone's going to blame that, rightly so, on Embiid's injury. So I don't think it's a coaching thing. But I do think that they are a sleeper team here in the East. And I have been encouraged, Boogie, by how quickly Embiid has started to look like himself.
Yes. Man, he's a special talent, man. Like, I just... we were having a conversation before about, some of the most skilled players to ever play this game. And this dude he's up there. Like, I mean, you think about the lower leg injuries, he's had a few of them, but one thing about him, he's not a player that just relies on athleticism. This dude is so skilled. It's crazy. So for him to get back into form or, not have to rely on athleticism so much, he has a consistent jumper. He can get to any shot he wants. He can create his own. Like, this dude is special, man. So, that talent now being back apart, of Philly, they do have a great chance of competing in the East. Like, I think conditioning will always be a concern when it comes to missing so much time and having, 10, 12 games to come back. And, he can look great finishing out, the regular season. That playoff atmosphere is just a completely different monster, and you can't ignore that. So conditioning will continue to be a concern for me, but just as far as talent and impact on that team, like man, this dude is incredible, man. That's just the least I can say about him. He's really an incredible player, and I think he's going to surprise some people in this playoff run.
Yeah, I mean, no back-to-backs in the playoffs.
Well, that's the good news. Yeah, I think Tobias Harris needs to be healthy for them too. They need everybody. They can't afford to have anybody out. And like I said, Maxey and Kelly Oubre, the guys who've been picking up that offensive slack, they're going to need to continue that. It's not like Joel's going to come in and save the day. They need to still be aggressive out there.
Well, I got to give the NBA credit here because they've had some new ideas. Some of them have looked great at the beginning and then faded, right? Remember the Elon ending in the NBA All-Star Game? This is great. This fixed the All-Star Game. It's wonderful. Oh, wait, never mind. We've had other things that have come in and they just haven't stuck the way that you would want them to, even if they were successes at first. The play-in has stuck, man. I mean, this has kept this last third of the season so interesting, trying to compete to get into that 6th spot out of the bottom. It makes teams in the 9 and 10. Can you imagine the last couple months if in the West, the Lakers and Warriors were at 9 and 10 and the cutoff was 8? I mean, the conversation would be completely different. Now it's been, what can they do in a play-in now? Where'd they get into it? I just think the discourse around the league is so much more fun. The teams you can see competing in a way they weren't. We used to have teams sitting guys down the stretch left and right, and that hasn't been happening with these kinds of teams. So I would just say this organic kind of competing to win when the NBA is looking to solve other problems over the course of the next few years, whether it's guys sitting during the bigger, chunks of the regular season, whether it's the All-Star game. In the end, you cannot bribe people. You actually have to make the stakes worth it for them. And they have done that with the play-in. And congratulations to them on that, because this next week's going to be good, boys. I cannot wait. Thank you so much for joining today. You can catch all episodes of Bully Ball out there on the DraftKings Network, all the Smoke Productions YouTube channel, wherever you get your podcasts. Please rate and review us. We will see you next week, unless Boogie is already the assistant coach in Kentucky by then. We'll see. We'll see what happens.